I woke up to the smell of antiseptic burning my nose, a sharp tearing pain across my stomach, and my mother's voice saying, "Don't panic. This was for your own good." My eyes flew open. Fluorescent lights hummed above me. My throat felt scraped raw like I'd swallowed glass. When I tried to move, pain exploded through my body, so intense it stole the air from my lungs. I looked down. A thick white bandage ran across my abdomen, long, straight, way too long. That wasn't supposed to be there. "My scar?" I croaked. "Why is it so big?" "My name is Lauren Miller." I was 28 years old that morning, lying in a private recovery room at St. Anne's Medical Center in Chicago. On March 18th, expecting to go home by dinner with 3 tiny incisions and a prescription for pain meds. Instead, I had a 6-inch surgical scar and 2 parents who wouldn't meet my eyes. My dad stood at the foot of the bed, calm as ever, suit perfectly pressed like he'd come from a meeting instead of my surgery. "You're okay," he said. "Everything went fine." "That's not what I agreed to," I whispered. My voice shook even though I tried to keep it steady. My mom stepped closer, her perfume cutting through the sterile hospital smell. "Sweetheart, the doctor found something unexpected. We had to make a decision quickly." "What decision?" I asked. She smiled the same polished smile she used at charity dinners. "One you didn't need to worry about." The monitor beside me beeped faster. My heart knew before my brain caught up. Something was wrong. I remembered the pre-op room too clearly now. The cold bed. The paper gown. My mom squeezing my hand while my dad slid the consent forms in front of me. "Just standard paperwork," Mom had said. "Sign so we can get you out of here faster." I trusted them. I always had. I signed. Now my body felt like proof I shouldn't have. A nurse adjusted my IV and avoided my eyes. "Try to rest," she said softly, then left the room a little too quickly. "Can I see the surgeon?" I asked. Dad exhaled slowly, like I was being difficult. "Lauren, don't start." "Start what?" I snapped. The pain meds dulled the edges, but not my anger. "This wasn't laparoscopic. You promised me it would be." There it was, the first crack. My mom's voice hardened. "We did what responsible parents do." The door opened again, and the surgeon walked in, middle-aged, tired eyes. He glanced at me, then immediately at my parents. That told me everything. "There were complications," he said carefully. "We had to switch approaches." "Did I consent to that?" I asked. He hesitated. "Just a fraction of a second." "Long enough." "Your parents approved the additional procedure," he said. "They're listed as your medical decision makers." My stomach dropped. "I'm 28, I said. "Why would they—" My dad cut me off. "Because you were under anesthesia. And because it was necessary." Necessary. That word again. My phone buzzed on the tray beside me. Once. Twice. I reached for it. But my mom gently slid it away. "You don't need stress right now," she said. That's when fear fully settled in my chest. "Give me my phone," I said. Reluctantly, she handed it over. A notification lit up the screen. Email, 8:42 a.m. That was during my surgery. Subject line, updated consent and financial authorization. Financial? My hands trembled as I opened it. PDFs loaded slowly. My name typed neatly at the top. Signatures at the bottom that were definitely not mine. "What is this?" I asked. My dad's jaw tightened. "You're not thinking clearly." I scrolled. Procedure changes, billing approvals, insurance adjustments, and then one line that made my chest go cold. Patient waives right to dispute medical and associated administrative decisions. I looked up at them. "You signed this for me." My mom leaned in, her voice low and dangerous. "Lauren, if you love this family, you will not question this." My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number appeared on the screen. "Don't trust them. Check the attachment labeled Addendum C. They didn't expect you to wake up this soon. If you're enjoying this story, like and subscribe. And tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it there?" Because as I stared at that message, lying in a hospital bed with a scar I never agreed to, I realized this wasn't just about surgery anymore. It was about what my parents had done behind my back. And what they were desperately trying to hide. I waited until my parents left the room. It took longer than I expected. My mom fussed with the blankets like she was still in control. My dad stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the city instead of me. When they finally stepped out to talk to billing, the door clicked shut. And the room went quiet except for the steady beep of the monitor. My hands were shaking as I opened the email attachment labeled Addendum C. The PDF took a second to load. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. It wasn't medical. It was financial. Pages of dense language scrolled past, authorizations, cross-references, something called entry administrative rider. And then I saw it. A highlighted paragraph with my name typed neatly in bold. Authorization for secondary procedure, billing and asset offset. Asset. I swallowed hard and kept reading. The addendum tied my surgery to an existing Betrayal family medical trust, one I'd heard about in passing but had never seen. It authorized billing adjustments to be recovered through pre-approved financial instruments. If insurance didn't cover the cost, financial instruments like personal accounts. My accounts. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. They used the surgery to trigger the clause. Check page 4, the signature timestamps don't match. I flipped to page 4. There it was, my signature. Time-stamped at 39. I remembered the clock on the wall when anesthesia hit. It was already past 9. They forged it. My chest tightened, pain flaring through my abdomen as anger rushed in behind it. I'd trusted them. Let them speak for me. And they'd used my unconscious body as leverage. The door opened suddenly. I slammed my phone screen dark. Too late. My mom froze when she saw my face. What are you doing? I'm reading what you signed, I said. My voice low and steady in a way that surprised even me. My dad stepped in behind her. You shouldn't be looking at legal documents right now. Then you shouldn't have created them, I shot back. The air changed instantly. My mom sighed dramatically. Lauren, you're overreacting. Am I? I asked. Because it looks like you tied my surgery to your trust. Dad's eyes flicked just for a second. That was enough. You don't understand how these things work, he said. This was about efficiency. Efficiency? I laughed, a short, broken sound. You cut me open without my consent. His voice dropped. Watch your tone. There it was. The real him. A nurse appeared at the door, sensing the tension. Is everything okay in here? Yes, my mom said too quickly. Our daughter is confused from anesthesia. I turned to the nurse. I want a patient advocate. Silence. Dad stared at me like I'd slapped him. That won't be necessary, he said. I'm asking, I replied. Now. The nurse nodded. I'll call someone. After she left, my mom leaned in close, her smile gone. Do you have any idea how this will look? She whispered. Your aunt's fundraiser is tonight. Half our donors will be there. There it was. Image, always image. I don't care, I said. She straightened, cold now. You should. Because 2 hours later, still groggy and stitched and shaking, I found myself wheeled into a quiet conference room off the hospital lobby. And sitting at the table was my Aunt Rebecca. She looked up when she saw me, eyes widening, not with concern but calculation. Lauren, she said slowly. What did you do? My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. They've already told people you're unstable. Check Instagram. My heart sank as I opened the app. My mother's story was live. A photo of her holding my hand, cropped to hide the bandages. Text overlaid in soft pastel font. Hard day for our family. Please pray for Lauren as she struggles. Comments were pouring in. Stay strong. Poor parents. Family is everything. They were rewriting the story in real time. I looked up at my aunt, then at my parents, sitting there calm and composed, already winning the narrative. And I realized this wasn't just about money or surgery anymore. They were about to make me the problem. What would you do? Stay quiet to protect the family image? Or fight back even if it costs everything? Comment your take. Because as the patient advocate walked in and closed the door behind her, I knew one thing for sure. If I didn't speak now, they would bury me with my own scar. The patient advocate introduced herself as Marissa Chen and sat beside me, not across the table like everyone else. That small detail mattered. She spoke calmly, but her eyes didn't miss anything. Not my clenched hands. Not the way my parents leaned back like this was routine. Lauren, Marissa said, you asked for support. I'm here to make sure your rights are protected. My mom smiled. We appreciate that. We're just trying to keep things calm while she recovers. Marissa nodded, then turned to me. Can you tell me in your own words what you believe happened? I took a breath. The room smelled like burnt coffee and disinfectant. My abdomen throbbed, each pulse reminding me I didn't imagine any of this. I consented to a laparoscopic procedure, I said. I woke up with a 6-inch incision. My parents authorized additional procedures and signed financial documents in my name, while I was under anesthesia. My dad scoffed. That's not accurate. Marissa held up a hand. I'll hear from you in a moment, sir. That shut him up. I continued. There's an addendum tying my surgery to a family medical trust. I didn't know that trust existed, and I never agreed to let my personal accounts be used as offsets. My Aunt Rebecca finally spoke. Lauren, sweetheart, this is all very complicated. Your parents were protecting you. From what? I asked. My own money? Her lips pressed into a thin line. Marissa asked for copies of the documents. Dad slid a folder across the table, confident. Too confident. As Marissa flipped through the pages, my phone buzzed again, this time from a saved contact I hadn't spoken to in years. Daniel Ortiz. We'd gone to college together. He was now a junior associate at a mid-sized law firm. We'd reconnected months ago, when he'd asked questions about my parents' trust structures for a class action he was researching. At the time, I'd thought nothing of it. His text read, Lauren, I just saw your mom's post. Call me when you can. This is bigger than you think. Marissa stopped flipping pages. This signature timestamp, she said, tapping the paper. It conflicts with the anesthesia log. Dad stiffened. That could be a clerical error, he said. Or, Marissa replied evenly, it could be a violation. The word violation landed hard. My mom crossed her arms. Are you accusing us of something? I'm stating possibilities, Marissa said. I'm also recommending an internal review. Rebecca leaned forward. That would be unnecessary and damaging. Damage is already done, Marissa said, glancing at me. To the patient. The meeting ended without resolution, but the tone had shifted. My parents weren't in control anymore. They were scrambling. Back in my room, I finally called Daniel. You were right, I said. They used the surgery to trigger something. He didn't hesitate. Lauren, your parents' trust has a clause, rare, but legal, that allows medical incapacity to activate temporary asset control. It's usually for dementia cases, not elective surgery. My stomach dropped. So they may have tried to establish incapacity, he said, which would explain the paperwork and the social media narrative. Unstable, struggling, poor Lauren. My phone buzzed again, this time a group text from my cousins. Why are you attacking Aunt Rebecca? Mom says you're confused. Delete your comments. You're embarrassing the family. Social humiliation. Phase 2. I stared at the messages, hands shaking, not from pain this time, but rage. They're laying groundwork, Daniel said. If you fight this, they'll say you're unfit. I looked at the scar, the bandage now slightly soaked through. What do I do? There was a pause. Then, do you have proof they expected you to stay under longer? I thought of the unknown number. The email. The message. They didn't expect you to wake up this soon. I might, I said. That night, after visiting hours ended, my phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. Check your hospital chart. Nursing notes. 9 to 10 a.m. I logged into the patient portal. And there it was. A nursing note entered after I was already awake. Patient remains sedated. Family requests extended observation before disclosure. My blood ran cold. Because that wasn't just unethical. That was intentional. And if I could prove it, everything my parents had built, the trust, the reputation, the control, could come crashing down. My heart skipped. And? Nothing formal, he said quickly. Just questions. Questions meant cracks. The room dimmed slightly as the lights shifted for the next presentation. Rebecca took the stage now, confident, glowing. Our family believes in transparency, she said. In doing what's necessary, even when it's hard. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She's about to lie. The donor packet includes your surgery as justification for reallocating funds. I opened the Foundation app discreetly, pulled up the digital packet. There it was. A slide labeled Emergency Medical Expenditures and Asset Reallocation. My name was listed as the case study. They weren't just controlling the narrative, they were using my body. As a financial example, Rebecca's voice carried across the room. Sometimes leadership means making choices others don't understand. I stepped forward without thinking. My mom grabbed my wrist. Don't, she hissed. I looked at her. Really looked. No warmth, just fear. Rebecca smiled from the stage. And now, if you'll excuse me. Actually, I said, my voice cutting through the room, amplified by the sudden hush. There's something I don't understand. Every head turned. My dad's face went pale. I felt the bandage pull as I straightened, pain sharp but grounding. My phone buzzed one last time. Daniel, if you're going to do this, do it clean. Ask for the chart. Out loud. Rebecca froze. I met her eyes. Can you explain, I said evenly, why my surgery was used to authorize asset reallocation without my consent? A murmur rippled through the crowd. Rebecca laughed too fast. Lauren, sweetheart, you're confused. Am I? I asked. Then let's clear it up. The room held its breath. Because in my hand, hidden behind my clutch, I had my hospital chart pulled up, complete with timestamps. They never thought I'd read. And I was done being quiet. The silence after my question felt physical, like pressure against my ears. Rebecca recovered first. She always did. Lauren, she said with a soft laugh, this isn't the place. That's interesting, I replied, holding my phone tighter. Because you made it the place when you put my surgery in the donor packet. A low murmur spread through the ballroom. I saw heads tilt. Phones subtly lift. This wasn't a private family moment anymore. My dad stepped forward, voice smooth. My daughter is still recovering. She's emotional. I nodded once. I was emotional when I woke up with a 6-inch scar I didn't consent to. I'm informed now. Rebecca's smile twitched. You're misunderstanding internal language. Then explain it, I said. Explain why my chart says I was sedated. At 9:10 a.m. when I was already awake and asking questions. That landed. Dr. Ross shifted uncomfortably near the stage. A woman on the board whispered something to the man beside her. I could feel the room leaning in. My mom moved closer, her nails digging into my arm. Stop, she whispered. You're embarrassing yourself. I gently pulled free. No, you embarrassed me when you decided my body was a tool. Rebecca lifted her hands, placating. Everyone, please. I'm not finished, I said. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me most of all. I raised my phone. This is my hospital chart, time-stamped. It shows a request from my family to delay disclosure while I was conscious. That's not confusion. That's control. Gasps now. No murmurs. Rebecca's eyes flashed. Those notes are taken out of context. Great, I said. Then context will help. I turned to Dr. Ross. As chief medical officer, can you explain to this room how often families are allowed to override adult patients' consent during elective surgery? All eyes swung to him. He cleared his throat. That would be highly irregular. My dad's face went rigid, and I added, can you explain why a medical trust clause tied to incapacity was activated during my procedure? That did it. Rebecca's composure cracked. Lauren, this is not appropriate. What's not appropriate, I said, is using your niece's surgery to move money. A man near the front, one of the foundation's largest donors, spoke up. Is that true? Rebecca opened her mouth, closed it, looked to my dad. He said nothing. That silence was louder than anything I could have said. My phone buzzed. A new message from Daniel. Daniel, they're panicking. I just got confirmation. 2 board members requested an audit. Audit. The word felt like oxygen. If you're enjoying this story, like and subscribe, I said, forcing a small smile as I looked out at the crowd. And tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it there? A few nervous laughs rippled through the room. Rebecca stepped down from the stage, her voice sharp now. We're taking a break. No, said a woman I recognized from the finance committee. I think we're continuing. Another ally. I hadn't expected that. My mom's voice trembled for the first time. Lauren, please. Think about the family. I am, I said quietly. For the first time, security hovered near the doors, not for me, but for the room. People were already whispering, pulling up documents on tablets, comparing notes. The gala had turned into something else entirely. Rebecca leaned in close, her breath hot with anger. You have no idea what you've started. I met her gaze. I do, and you should be scared. Because I wasn't alone anymore. The story was out. The receipts were real. And the people who cared about image more than truth had just lost control of both. What would you do if your family crossed a line? Like this, stay silent to protect their name. Or speak up and burn the illusion down? Comment your take. As I stepped back into the crowd, pain flaring but resolve steady, I knew the next part wouldn't be about questions. It would be about consequences. They tried to end the night quietly. Rebecca called for valet early. My dad disappeared into a side corridor with 2 board members. My mom stayed glued to my side, her smile frozen, whispering apologies to anyone who looked our way. It didn't work. By the time dessert was supposed to be served, the ballroom had split into clusters, people comparing notes, pulling up foundation filings. scrolling through donor packets that suddenly looked very different under scrutiny. Then someone asked the question out loud. Can we see the documents? It came from Margaret Klein, head of the Foundation's compliance committee. Late 60s, sharp eyes, no patience for nonsense. Rebecca stiffened. Now is not the time. It's exactly the time, Margaret said. You referenced emergency reallocations. We need the receipts. That word again, receipts. Margaret turned to me. Lauren, do you have copies? I nodded. My phone felt heavy in my hand. I have my hospital chart, time-stamped nursing notes, and the addendum tying my procedure to asset offsets. Send them, she said. I hesitated for half a second, then tapped share. The room went silent except for the soft whoosh of emails landing in inboxes. Margaret scanned the documents, her expression tightening. These signatures, she said slowly, were executed while the patient was under anesthesia. My dad stepped forward. That's a misunderstanding. Margaret looked up. Is it? She turned to Dr. Ross. Doctor, is this standard practice? No, he said quietly. It is not. Rebecca's voice sharpened. This is becoming accusatory. It's becoming factual, Margaret replied. People were openly staring now. Phones no longer hidden. A few were recording, Margaret continued. And this clause? Temporary incapacity triggering asset control. Why was it activated for an elective procedure? No answer. My mom finally spoke, her voice thin. We were protecting our daughter. I looked at her. By lying about my mental state? That landed like a slap. Margaret set the papers down. This foundation will be initiating a formal audit effective immediately. A gasp rippled through the room. Rebecca's face drained of color. You can't. I can, Margaret said. And I am. My phone buzzed again. Daniel, good. I'm filing a preservation request tonight. They won't be able to destroy records. My dad's voice cracked for the first time. Lauren, please. Let's talk privately. I shook my head. You had privacy? You used it to sign my name. A woman near the back, someone I barely recognized, spoke up. If this is true, donations need to be frozen. Margaret nodded. Agreed. That was it. Rebecca sank into a chair, the confidence gone. My mom stared at me like she didn't recognize me at all. And in that moment, something shifted. Not just in the room, but in me. I wasn't asking anymore. I was stating facts. I addressed the room, my voice steady despite the pain pulling at my stitches. I didn't come here to ruin anyone. I came because my body was used without my consent, because my trust was violated, and because silence would have made me complicit. No one interrupted. I'm stepping away from this foundation, I continued. Effective immediately. Any decisions made in my name are revoked pending review. Margaret nodded once. Noted. Security escorted Rebecca and my parents out, not roughly but firmly. The room parted as they passed. Whispers followed them like shadows. When the doors closed behind them, the air felt lighter, sharper, real. Dr. Ross approached me quietly. I'm sorry, he said. This should never have happened. I know, I replied. That's why it ends now. As I left the ballroom, the city air hit my face. Cold, grounding. My phone buzzed one last time. Daniel, you did it. Now let's make sure it sticks. I looked down at the scar pulling beneath my dress. It still hurt. It probably always would. But for the first time since I woke up in that hospital bed, the pain felt like proof, not of what they took from me, but of what I took back. Because the confrontation was over, and the consequences were just beginning. The consequences came faster than I expected. By Monday morning, the Foundation's website displayed a single, sterile sentence. All discretionary financial activity is temporarily suspended pending review. My phone didn't stop buzzing. Emails from board members, texts from cousins who suddenly wanted to check in, missed calls from my parents that I didn't answer. Daniel met me at a quiet cafe near my apartment, the smell of burnt espresso mixing with rain from the open door. I moved slowly, the scar still tight, every step a reminder of what they'd done. They're in damage control mode, he said, sliding a folder across the table. And it's not going well. Inside were printouts, bank transfers, trust disbursements, internal emails. They'd been moving money for years, Daniel continued. Your surgery just gave them a justification. A clean story. A sick story, I said. He nodded. The audit triggered a deeper look. Once regulators see forged consent and misrepresentation of incapacity, things escalate. Escalate meant subpoenas, depositions, consequences that didn't care about family names. That afternoon, my mom showed up at my door. I hadn't given her the address. She looked smaller somehow. No makeup, no smile. Just red eyes and a tremor in her hands. "Please," she said. "Just let me explain." I didn't invite her in. The hallway smelled like fresh paint and lemon cleaner. Ordinary, safe. "You already explained," I said. "In a hospital room?" Tears spilled. "We were trying to protect you." "From what?" I asked. She hesitated. "That told me everything." "From losing control?" I said quietly. She flinched. Behind her, my dad waited by the elevator, arms crossed, jaw set. He didn't look at me. "I'm not doing this here," I said. "Any communication goes through my lawyer." Her voice broke. "Your grandmother is not a bargaining chip," I said. "Don't make her one." That night, Daniel called again. "They're freezing accounts tied to the trust. Your parents' personal assets are under review." I closed my eyes, exhaled. Relief and grief tangled together. "And," he added, "there's more. The hospital initiated its own investigation." My stomach clenched. "What does that mean?" "It means the nursing note wasn't the only issue," he said. "There were directives. Requests logged. Pressure applied. Pressure that came from my family." 2 days later, I sat in a small conference room at a law office. The hum of the HVAC filling the silence. Daniel was beside me. Across the table sat a woman in her 70s with silver hair and a posture that radiated authority. My grandmother. She hadn't spoken to me since the gala. "I raised your father better than this," she said finally. My throat tightened. "I didn't want to hurt anyone." She met my eyes. "You didn't. They did." She slid a document toward me. A codicil. Handwritten notes in the margins. "I updated my will," she said. "Last night." My heart skipped. "Grandma?" "This isn't revenge," she said. "It's clarity." The codicil removed my parents as executors, redirected oversight to an independent firm, and added one line that made my hands shake. "Any attempt to establish incapacity through deception constitutes forfeiture." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You're not weak, Lauren. You were targeted." I swallowed hard, tears finally falling. "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "I'm proud of you." Outside, the late afternoon sun broke through the clouds, warming my face as I stepped onto the sidewalk. The world felt different, less heavy, more honest. My phone buzzed with one last message from my mom. "We never meant for this to happen." I typed back only one thing. Intent doesn't erase impact. And for the first time since March 18th, I slept through the night. Because the damage had been done, but so had the reckoning. The first thing I did after everything went quiet was change my locks. Not because I was scared, but because I was done giving anyone access they hadn't earned. Spring turned into early summer, and my body healed in uneven stages. The scar faded from angry red to a dull pink, a permanent line I learned to live with. Physical therapy appointments replaced hospital visits. Legal meetings replaced family dinners. Stability, it turned out, was built in boring rooms with bad coffee and good boundaries. I moved my savings into an account my parents had never touched. I updated my emergency contacts. I removed my mother from my medical portal and my father from anything with my name on it. Every click felt like reclaiming oxygen. The audit results hit in May. The foundation released a statement, longer this time. Language carefully chosen. Words like the procedural failures, governance concerns, and temporary leadership changes. Temporary, except Rebecca resigned that same afternoon. My dad didn't. He tried to fight. Through lawyers, through letters, through carefully worded messages sent to mutual friends. He framed himself as misunderstood. A man who made hard choices for family. It didn't land. Donations stayed frozen. Regulators stayed interested. And once that door opens, it doesn't close easily. Daniel called one morning while I was walking along the lakefront. The air smelling like sunscreen and water. "They're offering a settlement." I stopped. "From who?" "Your parents," he said. Civil side. "They want you to sign a non-disclosure agreement." Of course they did. "What do they want in return?" I asked. "Access," he said, "to you. To the narrative?" I watched a runner pass, earbuds in, unbothered by any of this. "No." Daniel smiled through the phone. "I thought you'd say that." The second attempt came through my grandmother. We met at her house, sunlight pouring through tall windows, dust motes floating like they had nowhere better to be. She poured tea and sat across from me, hands folded. "Your father asked me to speak to you," she said. I waited. "He says he's changed." I looked at the steam rising from my cup. Has he acknowledged what he did? She didn't answer right away. That's my answer, I said gently. She nodded. I told him the same. Weeks later, my mom tried a different angle. She emailed me a photo from my childhood. Me at 7, missing 2 teeth standing between them at the zoo. Subject line: we were happy once. I stared at it longer than I wanted to. Then I archived it. Not deleted, not replied, archived. Because closure doesn't always come with confrontation. Sometimes it comes with silence. I started building again. I took on a new role at work, one that didn't intersect with my family's world at all. I made friends who knew me as Lauren, not as a last name. I went on dates and told the truth, when it mattered, and kept my past private, when it didn't. One evening, Daniel and I sat on my balcony, city lights blinking on one by one. You okay? He asked. I touched the scar through my shirt. I am now. My phone buzzed one last time that week. A voicemail from my dad. Lauren, he said, voice tight. We need to talk. This isn't over. I listened once. Then I deleted it. Because some people mistake access for entitlement. And some stories don't need a sequel, or so I thought. It ended on a Tuesday. Not with a courtroom scene or flashing cameras, but with an email. Subject line: final notice of enforcement action. I read it sitting at my kitchen table. Morning light spilling across the floor, coffee going cold beside me. The language was formal, almost boring. But the meaning was anything but. The audit was complete. The foundation was fined. Oversight was reassigned. Multiple accounts tied to the trust were placed under permanent, third-party control. And my parents, both of them, were barred from serving as fiduciaries or board members for any registered nonprofit in the state. Quiet consequences. Permanent ones. I forwarded the email to Daniel with a single word. Thank you. He replied seconds later, you did the hard part. That afternoon, I took a walk by myself. No phone, no noise. Just the sound of my shoes on the sidewalk and the wind off the lake. I stopped at a crosswalk and caught my reflection in a store window. Older than I'd been in March, steadier than I'd ever felt. The scar still pulled when I moved a certain way. It always would. But it no longer felt like a wound. It felt like a boundary. I saw my parents one last time a week later. Not in person. In the paper. A small article on page 6 of the business section. No photos, just names and a paragraph. About governance failures. And resignations following regulatory review. No mention of me. And for the first time, that felt right. My grandmother called that evening. It's done, she said. I know, I replied. She paused. Are you okay? I thought about it. About the hospital room, the gala. The moment I decided to speak. I am, I said. Really? She exhaled, relieved. Good, then I can say this. I waited. You don't owe anyone access to you just because they share your blood. Tears blurred my vision. Thank you. After we hung up, I stood in my apartment and looked around, at the plants I kept alive on my own. The framed photos I chose, the quiet I'd built intentionally. This was mine. Months later, I went back to St. Anne's, not as a patient, but as a guest speaker. The hospital had updated its consent protocols. Patient advocates were given more authority. Nursing notes were audited in real time. Change small but real. Afterward, a young woman stopped me in the hallway. I heard your story, she said softly. It helped me say no. That mattered more than anything my parents ever owned. I still get messages sometimes. From extended family. From old friends. From people who want reconciliation without accountability. I don't respond. Because peace doesn't come from explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. It comes from choosing yourself over and over until it stops feeling like a fight. If you're enjoying stories like this, like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. And tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it there? I'll leave you with this. If someone uses love as leverage, it's not love. If they cross your body, your money, or your voice, it's not protection. And if setting a boundary costs you a relationship, then that relationship was already costing you too much. I trusted my parents during surgery. I woke up with a scar. But I walked away with my life fully in my own hands.